Wow, okay. Are you ready, Dad?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, smile at the camera so you get a good thumbnail. Hello and welcome back to Posh Talk. I am your host, Sierra, also known as the Posh Queen. And Posh Talk is where we have a realistic view on what entrepreneurship is. We discuss relationships and lifestyles under the lens of entrepreneurship. And be on the lookout for guests. And today we do have a special guest, my dad. And so today we're going to have, honestly, it's going to be like me interviewing you, but I want to share who you are with my listeners, because I feel that people always tell me so much about my work ethic and, you know, where I've come, and I feel like they always have so much positivity, but I feel like a lot of it comes through how I was raised by you and your influence on me. And so I would love to share that with people, because I feel like you inspire me every day and I want to share that with others. Okay. So it's going to be a nice conversation, and you know, you get to meet, you know, my dad, you know, the father of the Posh Queen. So are you ready?
I'm ready. How
are you feeling about being on Posh Talk for the first time?
It was awesome. It was a privilege. I'm honored to be able to talk to you and your viewers.
Yeah. Listeners, too.
Listeners also.
Okay, so we're going to start off by, you know, who are you? Mm-hmm. You're my father. I'm originally from Savannah, Georgia, but my dad is originally from the Virgin Islands. So tell me about the Virgin Islands as if I don't know anything about it.
All right, I'm from St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, which is a small island in the Caribbean. St. Croix is there's three different islands on the Caribbean, in the Virgin Islands: St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. And I'm from St. Croix. I grew up there from baby up until I left when I was like 18 years old to come to America. Like we say, everybody wanted to come to Babylon. So I came to America to go to school, and that's what brought me to America.
Yeah, I kind of knew that. So growing up in St. Croix, it was you, and how many siblings do you have?
It was like eight children in the family. Mm-hmm. Mom and dad, everybody's still around. Mm-hmm. Mom and dad and two sisters and a brother still reside in St. Croix. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you're not the youngest. Who's the youngest?
My youngest is Samantha.
Okay.
And the oldest is my sister named Marcia, and she lives in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So I have a sister in North Carolina, and two brothers in North Carolina, and another brother in Atlanta.
Yeah, shout out to Uncle Eli.
Right.
So, you being, you know, not from the States, and they call the States the mainland, right?
They call it the mainland or Babylon. Yeah.
So, was that something that y'all discussed a lot growing up? Like, oh yeah, one day we're going to like live on the mainland, we're going to live in Babylon.
Yeah, growing up, you always wanted to, because keep in mind, when we were growing up, we always saw visuals from America, like in a lot of books. It's not till like maybe the mid 80s, like early 80s, then we had like TV where we could see stations from America. But growing up, we always used to like fantasize about coming to America. Just the stuff you heard and you read, you always thought America, the streets were paved in gold. So a lot of people back in my days, everybody always wanted to come to America because they saw it was a great land of opportunity. So that's what really, a lot of the children through my time always wanted to come to America just because they figured they could make it in America.
Got it. And So what was it like working on the island? Like, let's start off with what Granddad does, because I don't actually know.
My father, which is named Desmond Duval also, he worked at oil refinery, and he worked there for like 40, maybe 41 or 42 years. And he's the one that got a lot of my work ethics and devotion to doing a good job, because he worked for all those years, and not one time he was ever late or he ever missed work in 40 plus years.
Oh my gosh.
So I know he was like a robot.
Yeah.
So I could never even work as hard as how he did. But he was a special person, hard as ever, real hard man. So I got a lot of my my proudness, my work ethics, and my ability to just do the right thing all the time from my dad. So
yes, I can definitely see that. Wonderful. Grandpa is amazing. And so that was the main like job career path on the island, was working at the oil refinery, or was there something else?
like at that time, the oil refinery had about maybe 60% of the people work on the island in the oil refinery, or they work in the government.
Okay.
So, or like tourism.
Okay, so that's where it was at.
Yeah.
So let's get to, I guess, where your interests were. Where were your interests growing up?
My interest always was I was fascinated with images, and I used to fantasize on. Back then, we had what's called encyclopedias. So the encyclopedia, because we had TV, but we couldn't. It was basically you couldn't watch nothing really. But we used to read a lot of encyclopedia. My parents had. A lot of people don't know what encyclopedia is, but it's like a set of books from A to Z, and each one basically had information about that particular letter. So I used to love the encyclopedia, the P for photography. So I always fascinated with photos, how you created photos. So my first job, I started working when I was like 13 years old. And what I did at that time, I worked at it was basically cutting bush for the cows, because the thorns around the bush for the cows used to hurt the cows when they're eating the bush. So I was in charge of cutting the thorns around the bush so the cows could eat. So, and back then I think I was making maybe $3.10 an hour, like little or nothing. So I was 13 years old, and I was like we used to be, I saved my money, and that was my first job. So I didn't have enough money because I always wanted to own a camera. But my second job is where I really started making more money, is that my brother, Garfield, started working at a summer job at a lumber mill. So one day he got sick, and we needed the money. So, there's a lot of children, and just my dad working. My mom took care of the children. So my mom said, well, you and your brother sort of look alike. Why don't you just fill in for him, and we could still get the money for the family. So at that time, I did that, and always listened to my dad. He always said, always tell the truth, regardless. So when the boss man, I think the guy name was Mr. Bell, Jim Bell was the owner of the St. Croix Trading. And Mr. Bell noticed that we had looked different, because I used to have a big old afro back in the days. So he approached me, and he said, well, something looked different about you. And I told him, I said, no, I'm filling in for my brother, because he wasn't feeling well. And by telling the truth, what the guy did, he actually said, well, you could come to work and your brother could come to work. So now we had two incomes coming from the lumber mill. So my mom said, well, y'all take half of the money, and y'all do something constructive with the money. So what I did, me and my brother bought a camera together, which is a Nikon FG camera. That was my first camera. So with that camera, I started taking pictures for family members, church events, and also I started going to, we used to live by a beach in a real small house growing up, real small, like maybe 100 square feet or even less.
Wait, how many of y'all were in the house?
In the house, I was a baby because we left that house when it was about 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah.
So it was 3 children and mom and dad. And it was just a small house. There was no toilets or nothing. Everything was toilet and everything was outside the house. But you never knew how bad off or how, I guess you could say, poor we was back then. But we were right next to the beach, and I'm talking about right next to the beach. I'm talking about not even 100 yards away from the beach. So I started going back once I got the camera, and I knew that hotel where we used to right on the beach. I said, man, I could go make some money on the tourism, on the tourists. So I started taking pictures for the tourists when they had weddings. So I started making good money. I think I was like, at that age, I'm like 13 or 14 age now. So that's how I really started making money, taking pictures for the tourists. And I said, man, this is something good I could do on a full-time basis. So that's how I got interested in photography.
Wow. And it's so funny that you say, like, you started off doing weddings, because that's something that you still do
I still
today.
do. Yeah,
like, that was your
weddings.
foundation, and you really stuck with that. So did you know what entrepreneurship was like, I guess, at that time when you were, like, you know, taking pictures and getting paid? Did you have that concept of it yet?
Well, I always had the concept of making money. 'Cause I always saw some of my people I look up to was basically like business owners. At that time, we didn't even know what entrepreneurship was, but you knew you wanted to be your own business. You want to have your own business to make your own money.
Right.
So that always stuck with me from day one, just being around people on the island that you saw doing their own thing, running their own business. I said, man, I'd love to do that one day. I want to run my own business. So it started from an early age where I always wanted to have my own.
Okay. Yeah, I could definitely see that. I know there's another story of, like, your entrepreneurship before you even started taking pictures. What did you used to do and, like, sell before you started taking pictures?
Well, one thing I used to do when I was in high school, we used to go, I know it's wrong, but we used to go in our next door neighbor yard and pick mangoes. So I used to, me and my brother and a friend, during the summertime, we'll take the mangoes and go to somebody's yard, take their mangoes, and go to the grocery store or the side of the road sell mangoes. That's one thing. The next thing, we always had a lot of coconuts in the yard. So I used to take the coconuts in the yard, and I used to make coconut tarts and sell them in high school. So in high school, I started selling coconut tarts to my friends and family. And I used to sell them for like 75 cents a coconut tart.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was real cheap back then. It was real cheap.
So you used to do that, and you were still taking pictures at the same time?
I'm still taking pictures at the time. Yeah, I was what you call like a straight hustler back in those days.
Oh my gosh, you still are. So many things always going on at once. That's just always been a thing. So you graduated high school, and that's when you were like, okay, I'm going to go to college.
Yeah. So once in high school, I was taking pictures, selling stuff to my friends, and also I started working at the newspaper. I was the photo editor at the newspaper on St. Croix called the St. Croix Avis. So I always knew that I wanted to really make it, which is back in those days, you always felt like, oh, you had to come to America. I mean, to truly make it, the mindset back then was, oh, you got to go to America to make it, which is totally different now. You could actually stay home and make it. But at that time, you wanted to come to America, so I came to America to go to school, and I always wanted to have at least, back then I was doing it, but you didn't know why you were doing it, to have at least multiple streams of income, so which is something you learn as you start getting older. So I said, well, once I came to America, even though I'm in school, I'm going to still be working, making money, doing other stuff. So that's what I started doing. Once I came to America, I started working for the newspapers here, started taking pictures, and started doing like design work for people.
Okay. And so how did you, I want to know, okay, so out of everywhere in the world, you ended up in Savannah. How did you end up in Savannah?
How I ended up in Savannah, I know I never wanted to be no place too hot, so it was between Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina. My brother and sister before me, my older brother and sister, they was in North Carolina, and I know it was always cold because they always tell me how it was so cold. So then I didn't want to be too hot, so I'm coming from St. Croix, it's already hot there. So Georgia was in between, so I always like to go with what's in between. So Georgia was a great choice for me because it just fit all my needs.
And you wanted to go, where did you go first? When
I first came to America, I went to school at Georgia Southern. And I stayed at Georgia Southern up until they never got a graphic design program. I didn't want to take up photography because I already knew photography. So I wanted to try something different to at least have two different mindsets in business. So once Georgia Southern never got the graphic design program, I transferred over to SCAD.
Got it. And let's circle back. So you said that you already knew photography. How did you already know so much about photography?
I used to devote all my time and effort into reading. And I read like the encyclopedias. I study photographers. I study photographers like from top to bottom. So I knew about the camera, and back then everything was straight manual. So you had to know what you were doing. It's not like the digital stuff here nowadays. So I studied the encyclopedias. I studied magazines, and that's how I got started. Because there's no internet, no computers, no TV to look at to learn, no YouTube. So the only way you had to get your knowledge was from reading.
Wow.
So I did a lot of reading. I used to go to the library, check books out on photography. But my main source was the encyclopedia that my mom and dad had like a whole shelf full of encyclopedias. So that's one of my main reasons of learning was from the encyclopedias.
Yeah, I already knew that, but I just still think it's like I try to wrap my head around it because every time I want to learn something, I just like go online. Or I'm taught it in school, but even that, I don't know. I can't fathom like, oh my gosh, everything that you learn or you need to know is like in this one book, and you have to really digest it. And if you don't understand it in this one book, you're gonna have to go to another book.
Yes, yeah. So each book specialized in that particular letter of the alphabet. Like P had everything deal with P. If you want to know something about a particular animals, you go to an A for animals. Or if you want to know something about chemistry, you go to C. So back then it was like sort of difficult, but it made you understand the reason why you were doing or learning whatever you were interested in.
So I'm sorry, my mind still is like, so in the P part, it literally was just like a section that had photography. Yeah,
there's a section with photography.
Yeah.
So that whole section taught you about the camera, photography. Now, say for example, you have a camera. They'll tell you about the camera, but in the C encyclopedia, it's going to tell you for more information, go to the P. So then you have to go to oh man, you just have to go back. Oh man, it'll just give you like a brief description of the camera, but for more, go see photography because cameras is part of photography. So the bulk of the information about the camera will be in the photography section.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot. Okay, so let's fast forward again. So you're now at SCAD. You're in Savannah. What year is it?
I'm in Savannah now. This is 1994. 1994. I transferred over to SCAD.
Yeah. And so you were taking pictures in Savannah? Like, did you have a business, or how was photography incorporated into your life then?
When I first came to Savannah, I was, because SCAD was so expensive back then, I was living like dirt poor. I think I was surviving on like $3 a day. Back then, they used to have something called in Savannah, Crispy Chick. So Crispy Chick was like the best deal ever back in the day. So I used to eat $1 for like maybe brunch, lunch, what you call it now. So that was like a 2-piece chicken and a bun for like $1. So that used to last me up until like about 3, 4 o'clock. Then I go back there and get another $1 box. And before I leave SCAD, then I'll go I have my third meal for the day, which is the same thing: 2 pieces of chicken and a biscuit. And I never had just be water. But at that time, I was working for a printing company called Speedy Sign. And when I first came to Savannah in '94, I walked into Speedy Sign because I knew how to print materials. Back then, we used to do screen printing. So I knew how to do screen printing, and I went to his name was Mr. Jim Davis. I said, Mr. Davis, I'll let you work. I'll work for you free of charge for 1 week. And if I'm not worthy of the job that you assign me, you can fire me. But you just got a week of free labor. So after the first maybe about 5 hours of work, he came and said, you hired. Because he said I was so diligently printing. Back then, screen printing was like real hard because everything was manual.
Yeah.
There was no automatic printing. Everything, you had to put the ink in the screen. You had to move the squeegee back and forth. So everything was like by hand. So once you saw me printing those signs so fast, we did signs, we did shirts. We did a lot of different printing. He hired me after like about maybe the first few hours.
Oh, wow.
So I worked with Speedy Sign up until I graduated in SCAD in '96.
That's when I was born.
Yes, we were born. So I graduated in 1996.
Wow. I know SCAD is so much different than it was.
Oh yeah, but I think when I was at school at SCAD, they might have been maybe 12 to 2,000 students.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's weird.
And the only campus was here?
Only campus was in Savannah. They didn't have no campus. Now they have campuses all over the world.
Yeah. And so you're in Savannah and you graduated. And so what next? Did you know what you wanted to do, or was it kind of just
I was just wanted to be around photography. I always knew that. And what happened is that during that time, which is now, you're talking about 96, 97, the internet had just started coming out. I'm talking about just started. I got hired by a company called Savannah Online, and I was the graphic designer back then.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
What is Savannah Online?
Savannah Online, they've been got bought up. Now it's basically the online service for the Savannah News Press.
Okay.
The Savannah News Press bought out, which is the Morris Corporation back then. They bought out Savannah Online. Okay. Yeah.
And it was just news.
Because keep in mind, not too many people had
internet.
Not even companies had internet. So you had to be like, you had to be a company that all you did was internet service. Yeah. Because the companies like nowadays, anybody can have internet presence. You had to that's all you do. So the competition for what Savannah Online was doing was like, either you want us to do your website, or you bought out the company to have your website. So what the Morris News Corporation did was bought out Savannah Online.
Oh wow, that's a lot. I didn't know that you did all that. And so you did graphic design for them. Yes. What made you? Because you said they got bought out.
They got bought out. Once they got bought out, you know how that goes. Yeah. They bring in their own new staff. Okay. So I said, after that, I worked some odd jobs at Circuit City, work at Sears, but I always still had my photography company going. Yeah. And then one day I just decided I'm just gonna work for myself full time. Yeah.
So what even drew you to working at like Circuit City and like Sears?
Keep in mind, I was trying to have at least, like, we didn't know what you were doing back then, but it was streams of income. So I always wanted to have at least 2 to 3 streams of income coming in at all times. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. And so you were just like, I think I'm going to take entrepreneurship, like, my business full time.
Full time, yeah.
Yeah. So what was your like key, like, what were your 3 main things that told you like it's now time for me to go full time?
I think it started with Circuit City. Once they got rid of the commission sales. Okay. Now, commission sales is like, always remember, you're gonna make as much as you put into it. So I used to just love commission sales. So Once they decided they were getting rid of all the top earners in commercial sales, at that time I was like the 5th best salesperson in the whole United States. So I used to make good money back then. So they got rid of commercial sales because Best Buy had just came out, and Best Buy was just paying hourly. So they decided, well, let's follow suit like Best Buy, and that was the worst decision they ever made. And the company went under after that. So then that's when I started working at Sears, and Sears did the same thing eventually, and they went under. So right then, that's like if you're gonna have people taking care of your customers, always remember your customers who pays the bill. So customer service has to be like impeccable. So I always strive every single day in customer service to be the best customer service rep that you could always be, regardless of whoever you're serving. And two major companies did not realize that your commercial salespeople are going to treat your customers the best, because if your customers are not happy, you're not going to get paid.
Exactly.
So once Circuit City decided, oh, we don't worry about customer service, we just worry about saving money. So we're going to get rid of y'all commercial sales. So they got rid of that, and then a few years later, they went under. Sears decided they wanted to do the same thing. It didn't take Sears not even 2 years, and they went under after that. So that's like a lesson. Customer service is the key. So in entrepreneurship, treat your dollar customer like the customer that's paying you $100 an hour. So I treat everybody the same.
Yeah. And I think that I didn't understand what was going on. I feel like when I was like a kid and seeing like how bustling those places used to be. Like I remember walking into a Circuit City and it used to really feel like you were walking into like just a hub. It just used to be like loud, flashy, and it was just so busy. And Sears was like that too. After they stopped that, it was like, how is this a ghost town? Like, I don't get it. Yeah. So that's definitely key advice. Listen, that was a gem. So you're full time now. Let's talk about the business. What was the first name of the business?
First name of the business when I started was D&D Photography and Design. And basically we were doing just photography and design. Then in 2006, I bought out this building. I was renting a space with a good friend of mine. He was an attorney here in Savannah. And that building sold, so I had to go look for another spot. And this is where we at today, which is 1935 Skidaway Road, which is an old bank. So I bought an old bank that was vacant for maybe about 5-6 years. It just sat there. And so that's where we at right now, in the old Great Southern Bank. So that's where we at right now. So I always wanted to have my own. So I bought the building in 2006. And
that was a journey in itself, because I remember when you first got the building, it was like so much stuff we were doing. Like we were always in here painting and like changing carpets and trying to figure out. We got lucky with the furniture.
Yeah, we got lucky with the furniture. Lucky with the furniture. So the previous owner had locked all the furniture up, and they just walked away. And before they were cleaning it out, about to give it to Goodwill. So I went to Goodwill, and Goodwill said, what sense does it make to move the furniture, and you want the furniture? So I gave them like $100, and they gave me all the furniture.
Yeah, and that was a comfort.
That was a big blessing, because
office furniture is too expensive.
They left all the furniture, so that was a big blessing there.
So how long have you been, I guess, fully operational as like D&D? So
I switched from D&D Photography and Design, because now we started doing more video production, graphic design. We started doing a lot of stuff geared around media. So we changed the name like in 2006 to D&D Media Group.
And that was the sign that was on the front. It was Media Group.
Yeah. Now D&D Media Group is the sign on the front right now.
Yeah, I remember when you switched that, because this is a long time ago. This is when we used to have a house phone. And I remember you called me one day on the house phone, and you were like, what does it say on the house phone? Like, what did the caller ID say? And I was like, D&D Media Group. You was like, okay, they changed it. I remember like when that was happening. And I was like, okay, that's cool. As far as like, I guess you could say like, yeah, this is a family business. When did I start, I guess, officially working in the business?
You started working in the business when you were about 5, 6 years old. I remember you used to be helping out with the design work, because for a long time I used to take work home. So I used to have the computer in your room, and then CC always used to help me out, sat on my lap, and help me with the design and with anything at all. She's always helped me out. So I appreciate those long nights back in those days. I really appreciate that.
I really appreciate that, because oh my gosh, it's some stuff that I don't know. It feels like riding a bike. It's like I don't really know how to do it, but I just remember it from somewhere deep in my mind. Yeah. It's like like the Photoshop. Because you low-key still use the old Photoshop.
Yeah, that's the best one.
Oh my gosh, which is crazy.
That was the best one ever.
But I think that it's just, I don't know, I think having this conversation is really cool, because it's just like going down the timeline to see like where we're at now. So how long has it been? Like how many years?
Oh, it's been, shoot.
It's more than me, right?
It's been, oh Jesus. Believe it or not, I've been working 40 hours plus over close to 40 plus years now. I've been working full-time 40 hours ever since I was 13 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I've been working, and I know some people might say, well, that's child labor, but man, when you have to do what you have to do, you got to do it. So I've been working like full time for a long time.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't fathom that. I appreciate all your hard work.
Oh, thank you.
That's why I work so hard. But I appreciate your hard work, because I know that things could be a lot more difficult than it is.
Yeah. Well, I always tell people that I always look at my dad. My dad, like I said, he worked. Now that's a worker right there. I mean, I'm not even. I can't hold a dime to him, a feather to him, because I'm talking about he worked through all the births of my brothers and sisters. He was still constantly working. So to look back at all the stuff he did, and the manager position he was at the oil refinery, to work 40 plus years, not late or never miss a day. What I'm doing is nothing right now. I'm not even. I always tell people, one thing about me, nobody could outwork me. I'm just.
I know that's right.
That's just the bottom line. Anybody who tell you, I could outwork you, they're lying. they're straight lying. So that's one thing about me. I could never be outworked. So, but now I'm taking it much easier. As life progresses, you do stuff much smarter. And so I'm doing stuff much smarter now in entrepreneurship. Yeah, you learn from your mistakes. Learn from your mistakes. If you're not going to take risks, you're not going to do anything. Like the saying goes, scared money never made money. So if you're scared about making money, this is not for you. You got to be able to take a risk. You gotta be able to jump with that parachute, because ain't no parachute. When in entrepreneurship, it's like a parachute. You're gonna have holes in your parachute, but you gotta patch that joke up and keep going, because you gotta have to take the leap into entrepreneurship. It don't make sense just sitting on the sideline. Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. You're gonna have to do it. And in all my endeavors, I always take the risk, learn from mistakes, and do better. So.
Yeah. So what is something that you wish you would have told, well, if you could tell your younger self something with all the knowledge that you have now, like what is something that you could tell your younger self, I guess, to help them and encourage them on their way?
I would say one thing that I did that went a long way is never burn bridges. Never burn a bridge with anybody, because some of the stuff I've gotten today in life, in entrepreneurship, is all because of bridges that I did not burn when I first came to Savannah. People that have done work for, and they saw my work ethics. So that has went a long. Don't burn no bridges, which is what I did. Don't burn no bridges, and take risk. Take risk. In my early part of my life, I never took risks. I was going by a playbook. But life is not a playbook. in the beginning, I always used to say, always plan, execute.
Mm-hmm.
But during that planning, you have to put somewhere, you have to have some type of risk.
Mm-hmm.
And by taking a little risk, you're going to see great results.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't take a risk, you will never know. And one day you'll be sitting, I wish I did, I wish I could have. When you take the risk, you're only going to learn from that risk.
Mm-hmm.
And learning at the same time improves you to become a better person, a better entrepreneur.
Thank you. I received that because I think that's the step that I'm trying to get into now, is like taking risks, because it's so scary.
Yeah.
It's like really scary because you're like thinking of everything. You're thinking of everything has to go right and everything has to go this way because I'm depending on myself. Other people are depending on me. Other people are looking at me, and so it just has to work out.
Yeah.
But
Understood.
yeah, I feel like that's debilitating though. Like you can't think like that.
Yeah. You can't. You have to be able to be at peace with yourself with the decision you make. But if you don't make a decision as far as doing something, you will always be regretting life. Like, man, I wish I did. Have a confidant that you could talk to, some type of mentorship, because everybody needs somebody that they could call for, just any type of advice. Always have somebody you could talk to, because like the saying say, pressure bust pipe. So whenever you have an issue, talk about it. Mm-hmm. Once you start talking about it, you start to see that this issue is small. It can be dealt with. Mm-hmm. But once you keep it inside you all the time, then you will realize it seems so monumental that it's a hill you can't climb. Mm-hmm. But once you start talking about that hill, you start taking the steps. Mm-hmm. As long as you could make that first step, a step goes after that step. Mm-hmm. So never look at your problems in business or life as too big, because with the help of God and help of just your inner strength, you can accomplish anything. Mm-hmm. So that's why I always tell people, have somebody you could talk to. That helps a lot. Mm-hmm. Two heads are better than one. Like I always wish within the last maybe 15, 18 years, I would have been so much further along life right now if I had like half a help. Mm-hmm. So that goes a long, long way, y'all. I mean, it's hard to do anything by yourself. Right. But if you have somebody, a confident friend, anybody that you can find in and help bounce ideas, solutions off, stuff goes easier.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. Mm-hmm. So I think to wrap everything up, this conversation was really, really great, really eye-opening, and I feel like you always inspire me, but still inspiring. You know, I'm on like my journey of, this entrepreneurship thing and trying to make multiple streams of income and, just doing the whole thing, That's how I've been raised. That's what I see examples of every day. And so, of course, I'm following suit. What is something that I feel like what's some advice for me personally that you think, will be good for other people to hear, but like me personally, because I feel like you know me and you know what I'm going through? Well,
everything I see you have done within the last 3 years, I've been extremely proud. I keep telling you that every single day.
You did.
Just keep up the good work. Always don't burn no bridges, which you know not to do. Mm-hmm. And always have an open door policy with basically all your clients, that if something goes wrong, always let them know you always could get to the bottom of it to solve the problem. Mm-hmm. So I've always treated all my different businesses that way. Mm-hmm. If something goes wrong, I try to find a solution that can make that customer happy.
Right.
All the time.
Got it.
And as long as you do that, you'll be A-okay. And just continue to make me proud. Mm-hmm. I'm super, super proud of you every single day. I tell you that. Yeah. But just keep up the good work. Mm-hmm. You come from good stock. Always remember that. Mm-hmm. And you'll do good. You'll do extremely well. You way further along than where I have been in my life at that age you are right now. I'm talking about way, way, way. You miles way ahead of where I was at when I was your age. Because when I was at your age, shoot, I was living in a apartment for $75 a month.
Oh my God, what?
Well, it was $75, and it was thing, because keep in mind, oh shoot, I mean, it was $75 a month, and it was even though it was in the hood, even though it was in the hood, you make lemonade out of lemons. And I remember those days. Like yesterday, this was before you were born. Living in that. I don't even call it apartment, to tell you the truth. It was like $75 a month, but it was like real rough. And then I know I didn't want to stay there. I was going to be a starting point. I didn't want to stay there. So then I decided, well, man, I need to move up. I need to take the risk to move up to a better apartment, because that apartment where I was staying at, which was on 39th Street and Waters in Savannah, I mean, every week my car got broken into.
Oh my God.
So it was such a hassle that I just leave. The only time you roll my window up is when I know it's about to rain. Because the window costs more than whatever was in the car. Yeah. And they ain't had no radio, but that was back in those days. So always take the risk. Like I said, risk goes a long way in everything you do. I knew I wanted to take the risk to move from there to go to another place. So I went from that place to $150 per month. Then from that place I went to $150 to $330 a month. So I'm taking calculated risk in trying to better my life. And so regardless of where you start in life, that's not your outcome. So always keep that. Like anybody, always remember, wherever you start in life, that's not your outcome. That's just a start. Everybody has to have a start, but that's not your finish. So always remember that.
Yes, I think that's really well received, especially like today, because I think everyone just is so caught up in everyone's highlight reels. That's what we see on Instagram and everything. But it's like you don't see the struggle because it's who's sharing that.
Yeah. Nobody want to show the beginning part because they think it's so bad, so embarrassed. Man, you can't have. One thing about entrepreneurship, you cannot have pride. You need your pride out the door and just work your butt off. My dad always told me pride is for the dogs. In entrepreneurship, you have to get the work done, regardless of how dirty it might be, how stressful it might be, or how long it will be. You have to get the work done in order to see improvements in your life and in your work life.
Received. Well, thank you, Dad.
You're welcome.
I feel like you have an appointment, don't you?
Oh yeah. I stay swamped.
But yes, this has been so great. I thank you so much for joining me on Posh Talk. Okay. And everyone is going to really enjoy this conversation. I get so many questions about you, and I feel like people are always interested in you. Okay, and so I'm glad that we got to do this, and we have the whole recording and record of this, because I feel like this is going to help more people than you actually know of.
I'm always here to talk to anybody.
Yes.
The younger generation, whoever. I'm always really here to willing to talk to people and let them know about basically how I got started, and that regardless of where you're at, you could get someplace.
Tell them about your social media handles.
My social media handle is Des Duval II on Facebook. My website is DesmondImages.com. My I don't even know. I have Instagram. Just type in Desmond.
It's Des Best Photo.
Des Best Photo is my Instagram. And my email is
DesBestPhoto@Yahoo.
DesBestPhoto@Yahoo.com. I got so many y'all.
But and the office is located on 1935 Skidaway Road in Savannah, Georgia. D&D Media Group. Check us out.
We're right next to McDonald's on Skidaway.
Yes. Anything else, Dad?
Oh no, just a pleasure. Thank you. Keep up the good work and continue making me proud.
Yes. Oh yeah. Also, you do Toro. You need a ride.
I do Toro and car rental services.
Yes. So if you need a ride, just come here. You know, look at the things. So yes, thank you, Dad. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
You're the bestest in the whole world.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Stay posh. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Yeah.